All right, bring it in, have a seat. Today we're looking at Flagship, the card game by GMT Games, released in 2002. This is the expansion Coyote Stands. It includes the deck for these two sort of competing factions here. There were a couple of other boxed releases that came out as well. There was this one too, and I think there was actually one additional one as well. They are sort of like buy a box games where the two decks are built and already contained, but they also had a constructed rules format within the game itself where you could purchase multiple copies of each of these sets and build your own decks for each of the factions. Just taking a look inside. I'm going to try to flip this over here. A little rattly, I'm sorry, but you get a nice look on the back there. It kind of goes into describing the game itself. Tells you about the contents of the game. You get a Heisenberg Dynasty deck and a Freeman's Followers deck. 6 dice, 1 rulebook, some character designs. The guys who worked on this worked on a lot of stuff. One of the big ones is 7th Sea. The guy that made this was a huge part of that game. So there's a lot of good behind it. Inside you get a registration card. You get a really nice rulebook. It's big, easy to read. The text is huge, so it's not nearly as daunting as this giant rulebook seems like it should be. And there's a huge section of it towards the back that is just like a step-by-step on how to play as any given player. You can also set up scenarios, which help you with like creating a specific starting hand, starting board state, and then try to play that out that way. That was really fun. We tried this like Raptor's Nest one when we were playing the other day, and it was a lot of fun. You also get a quick rule skirmish sheet, which helps a lot for just like really getting right into playing the game. On the back, there was a sign-up sheet to expand your fleet, create your own decks. It's how to order extra decks, and then you would get this promo of a star base that did all kinds of crazy stuff. Okay, that's not going to focus there. This never ended up coming out officially, but there is a group of people who are pretty dedicated to this game apparently, and there is a group, there's a website where they have uploaded most of the custom cards for this game, the ones that were originally supposed to come out, the promos and such, and are print and play friendly. So if you do decide you care, there's more fun to be had than even just the retail release. Getting into the game real quick, let's go ahead and take a look at the first deck here. You do get 3 dice, 3 in each color. Or sorry, I guess 6 total dice, 3 in each color, 3 for each faction. That will be relevant for play later in the game. But for now, we're just going to take a look at the decks themselves. You get this nice little rule turn reminder play, which will help with keeping track of the game as you go. As you start the game, you start with a specific number of points to spend in purchasing yourself crew and a starting fleet. So when you start, you always want to take a commander. This deck has 2. You've got Overqueen Tack. They all have really nice flavor text and stuff on them too. No longer do I guide a single ship, rather I guide the entire herd. And then we have Queen Till. This game has that awesome 2000s like sci-fi CGI look that was used in like the Final Fantasy movie and like Reboot and stuff like that. And I don't know, for me it just trips like a very specific trigger, and I love it. You've got your 2 commanders in each deck to sort of pick from. You've also got 2 flagships. These will kind of help you pick what your sort of core ideal of the deck is going to be. This is the Savata. Your ships have speeds, they have sizes, they have attack, command points, which is like your mana for the turn. Defense is their defense that you compare attack against, and then the hull is their total health. So as you lose by having your flagship destroyed. So there are various different ships. This one's got 23, this one's got 34. But this is a higher cost. It's a higher percentage of your fleet. This is a smaller one. This one's more of an offensive kind of high risk, high reward thing. This is a very defensive, safe play. Helps you make some decisions as far as what you want your deck to do. The decks come with some ships as well. This is the Kala. It's one of your 1-cost fast ships. These are going to be your, being as they're fast, they go first in combat, so they're your quick little chumpy attackers most of the time. Sometimes they do get to be a little bigger and do a little more as they go on, but generally this is the kind of basic fighter, if you will. We've got the Tiri. And getting into 2 costs, we've got the Rondi. And you can see these start to get a little bit more effect going on. They have higher attacks, higher defense. They have more health themselves. Keeps them alive longer. The Porsa. The Kato. Tabi. The Ninzi. And the Yuza. I don't know, I really enjoy the art in this game. It really, really does it for me. Then we've got crew. Your ships have different crew capacities, which will tell you how many crew can be upon them, and what you can have with them. As you go and you attach crew to ships, they can't have more than one of the same type of crew unless a card would tell you they can. But they essentially give whatever they're on an additional buff. Now this guy, he doesn't give any standard buffs as his effects, but he gives +2 direct attack as one of his stats. The game does function off of, there are 2 types of attack. There are direct and there are focused attacks. The direct attacks are you're attacking directly at your opponent's fleet as a whole, trying to hit their main ship. And then there's focused attacks where you're specifically targeting one of their smaller ships in like one-on-one combat as opposed to like large-scale fleet combat. There's a worker. He's a missile gunner version of the worker. Gives you +2 guided. Oh, I apologize. The word is guided, not focused. Then there's just a generic worker, but he gives you +3 hull, which is really nice. Worker gives you an effect when boarding. While it's tasked with to play a boarding card, this card pays 1 command of the boarding card's cost. So boarding is just an action that will let you like spawn cards into your ships or into your opponent's ships that fight them back. And they have costs of their own, but this card says that as long as it's attached, it pays one of the cost of one of those boarding cards for you. Sub-Queen Tep. This is one of the first cards you get 2 of. It's a captain. Captains are good to have. You get 1 command. This essentially, while this is attached, it gives you 1 extra mana for the turn. You'll find a lot of the costs in this game are really, really low because your general turns sit around like 4 or 5 total, maybe mana. Sometimes it's even just like 3 for most of the game. So it's nice to have a lot of these low-cost guys. Sub-Queen Taz gives you +2 attack, +1 command point, which is mana, and can't be attached to a ship with a commander or a captain. Makes sense. You can't have multiple captains on a ship. Engineer, you can pay a command point to remove 2 damage from a ship. It's kind of like a medic, a repair, a ship mender, if you will. Ship mender's in. Then we got Gaj, the missile gunner. It gives you +2 guided and 1 regular attack. Gaj boarding orders. All of your boarding cards gain +1 assault and 1 basic attack. Gaj, the beam gunner. +2 direct instead of guided and 1 attack. You get 2 copies of him. Direct attacks are good because they are the ones that you use against your opponent's main ship. So those are good, but guided is nice for targeting and picking guys off the board. You got Sting Rider Gaj, and when this ship's tasked to play a boarding card, this pays 1 of the costs, just like that other effect. And Claw Leader Geth. This is one of your biggest cards. It's got a lot of extra effects, and it is a 4 cost, so it makes sense. This deck has there are like action cards and equipments, that kind of thing. This one has a weird one in that it is also a unit, Danny. It can be both a react card as well as a ship if you need it to be. Thoughtful Strike. Healers. This one lets you heal some of your ships up. One of your ships, 2 damage from one of your ships. Sworn to Duty. You can task one of your capital ships to gain a command. That just means tap one of your ships, your main capital ships, to gain a mana for the turn. If it's tapped, it just means it can't attack, so you trade an attack for more resources. Light from the Quick, +2 direct for your fast or very fast ship. This is a good little buff for a good little combat trick with one of your fighters. Horned Caster Shot, +1 guided. Claw Tactics, +1 assault. Assault works with your units that are boarded. Security Claw, when playing a repel cost to pay for 2 command of the repel cost. So that's cool. Repel essentially is just it's an action that you can do to try to get cards that are boarding you off of your ship, and that's nice that it pays for 2 of the costs to do that. Lighting the Way. Play 1 a boarding cost. Pay 1 of the command for that. The Workers Never Sleep. Remove a hit from each of your ships. This is a card I thought I was talking about earlier. Star Stuff. +1 direct. Exploit your enemy. +3 assault. Swift Claw Attack. Full Caster Strike. Close Strike. This one's really cool. It increases the range of this direct or boarding attack from fast or very fast ship by 1. Now, ships have a range with their attacks, and your units are in 2 rows. Your capital ship normally sits in the back, but you have to use range to be able to hit them in front of you. This lets you increase that range of a fighter, essentially make it seem like it's closer than it is. Minor Claw Attack. Delight of the Ships. The art on that card's so cool. +3 direct. Claw Attack. This is a couple of boarding cards here. Large Claw Attack. Massive Claw Attack. And then we get into every deck has some counters. As a counter, these are like your defensive play cards. Whispered Song, stop 3 hits from an attack, so just reduce damage by 3. Speed is Life, stop 2 hits from one of your fast or very fast. Shun the Light, stop 3 hits. No Matter, and one of your boarding cards is being repelled to place the card in your hand instead of it being discarded. Command Decision, get +4 attack. Stop 6 hits. The Great Song. When the ship sings together. When the ships sing together, nothing can reach us. It's really cool. And then Acting on Instincts. Stop 6 hits from this direct attack, targeting a slow, normal, fast, or very fast ship. Very, very good card. Well, that is everything in this deck. Let's take 1 second then to go through the second deck. This is the Freeman. This faction is all about giant catmen and women. For our commanders, we've got Valkyrie and Grendel. Again, they have a higher cost unit and a lower cost one. A little safer, lower cost, a little bit better, but higher portion of your fleet. Then you've got the Nation's Pride and the Star Hunter. It's again slightly different. Better stats on this guy, but more cost. And the ships themselves. Diamond Squadron, Headhunter Squadron, Wildcard Squadron, Cobra Squadron, Black Widow Squadron, Paladin Squadron, and Raptor Squadron. This faction has a lot of really cool fighters. They are so much more like basic fighter combat focused. It's a neat faction. It's cool, the differences in the decks. Some of the decks like these are just built around every guy is just in little fighters and they're fast and small and swarmy. Some decks are like big mothership kind of things. It's really neat how that works. Here we've got Warhorse. Warhorse with a boarding effect. Got 2 copies of Rez. 2 copies of Blaze. Blaze is one of my favorites. No, not the Star Hunter. Mother. Ridiculous. Vixen. Black Widows form up on me. She's cool. I don't know. I love this whole like pilot cats thing. It's hilarious to me. Demon. 2 copies of Demon. And 1 copy of Bonsai. Oh, look, a quote from Valkyrie, the commander. We've got a Warrior's Code here. Helios rocket pods. Direct attack with +4 direct damage. It's pretty strong. +1 assault, 1 rage. It's really great for your boarding effects. Mark 2 defense pods. Stop 4 hits. Strafing run. +2 damage. Cool, cool. Remove 2 hits. Spare parts. Attack load. Personal guard. These guys look awesome. If they reach the bridge, we're all doomed. I've got tone. Tone slang. Pilot's lingo for locking on to a target. Mandates dictionary, 12th printing, 2552. I don't know. Flavor text rules, man. I really like when games can establish a world within themselves, which is a little bit of flavor text. You don't have to do much, but that just adds so much to the world. Close support. Keen gunnery. Now you'll notice they had a lot of 0 cost cards. Again, but with this deck being so like weenie focused, it makes a lot of sense that they've got a lot of 0 cost cards because they really wanted to like pump out little guys and like swarm with them. So you want to be able to do a lot of actions with them. Attack drones. Sudden insight. Headlong rush, which I'm pretty sure is just the art from the headlong squadron. Skilled drop. I think this one's really cool too. Got decoy drones. The Immelman maneuver. Immelman maneuver. A maneuver performed by a pilot of the agile craft to quickly reverse its direction. Cool. Secondary explosion. Guess it didn't like what we've been feeding it. Awesome. Doesn't even mean anything, but it's so good. Eye to eye. Increase the range of this direct or boarding attack. Minor drop. Major drop. And massive drop. I'm a big fan of how this scene is like a progression of the scene itself. I think that's really cool. And then getting into counters, this deck does have a few more of those than the last deck as well. But again, because everything in the deck is weaker, it needs to have a little bit more counter going on. Speed is life. Break, break, break. I love the aesthetic of this faction. The Beast Warriors. The Best Warriors. Ooh. A Nation Rises. I love the art on that guy. Determined to stand. Awesome. Screening action. Reposition. This is a really cool fighter one too. Get a move to an adjacent row so you're not getting attacked by a unit in front of you. It's awesome. Jamming. Regroup. Wild Weasel. Military lingo referring to a small craft equipped to fool enemy sensors into thinking it's the real target. Stop 6 damage. The Greatest Pilots. Just another sweet dogfight art there. Now they'll learn why the Dynasty fears us so. Stop 6 hits from this direct attack, targeting one of your slow, fast, normal, or very fast ships. Just any one of your types of ships, except for, I guess, very slow. This hits just about everything you've got and stops 6 hits. The one thing you'll find between factions, if you were paying attention, I did go a little fast on a lot of these, but if you're paying attention, you'll find that a lot of these ships and a lot of these cards between factions do the same general thing. That is one of the complaints that I've seen online by a couple of people, is that like the decks do have a lot of different cards in them, but if you compare the cards between decks, there are a lot of them that do kind of exactly the same thing. So personally, I don't really mind it. I think it makes for a better sort of game in box. And if you were to get constructed with it, there's a lot of the stuff that I think you would take out to make the decks more unique to themselves. But as playing it, we've played, I don't know, 4 games of this between the decks. There's 2 starters in each deck, and we've kind of we've played them against each other as they were supposed to be, and then we cross them to face the other 2. So each deck does play quite differently between them, and the factions feel unique, even though there are some similarities between the cards. I think this is a really cool game. It's not incredibly expensive to just pick up one of the kits, which is literally all you would need to play it. But it is, I would really be interested in getting, 3 or 4 copies of each of these and fleshing it out more and seeing what I can actually come up with. I think there's a lot to be had there, and it's an interesting game. I mean, plus, god damn it, look at it. It's perfect. It's everything, man. That aesthetic is so, it's awful, it's so bad, it's so stupid, it's so old and outdated, but man, it triggers such a nostalgia for me. If any of you were born, in late 80s, 90, and grew up being 10, 12 years old when this kind of animation was what we got to watch, this has to work for you too, right? PlayStation 1 cutscenes, like that kind of thing. It's just beautiful. Anyway, thanks for hanging out. I'm just going to ramble forever about how awesome these are. Excited to find them, to pick them up, and get some games in, get some more in the future here. Thanks for hanging out. Adios.